You are live, Jonathan.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Robert. So Mortgage Coach community, welcome. Thanks for joining me, the live or on recording. My name is Jonathan Roach, and I am blessed to be with you today. Both Dave and Todd are traveling. So Todd had sent me a text the other day saying, hey, are you cool with jumping in and leading the podcast on Friday, which is a huge opportunity for me. If you're not familiar, I've been really leading the Mortgage Coach community on cranking up your energy, which is the way that Dave kind of identified it. I'm blessed to be a peak performance coach for professional athletes, CEOs. I coach for the top 30 originators in the US. I get the space in which all of you are operating in, the chaos of it, the beauty of it. So today we're going to talk about a bunch of different things, but most importantly, I'm going to equip you with tools and strategies to really alter your mindset. I keep it super simple. That's my coaching strategy. I do the same thing with my athletes or executives or anyone else I'm blessed to coach. Simplicity wins. We need more complexity, like we need a hole in the head. So today, again, is about tools and strategies. And I'm going to give you one right out of the gate. And your negative voice, that inner critic we have, will maybe look down on it. But this is a profound one. And again, it's simple, but it's spot on, which is if we keep focusing on everything we have to do and the stress of it, we miss the greatest opportunity, which is to step out and truly realize how good we have it. And a lot of times we're pursuing the next thing, or for all of you, the next, the Smiths, you're trying to support them and their mortgage or their refi or whatever. The reality is if we step out, we look in, yeah, there's plenty of challenges, a lot going on, but there is so much to be grateful for. And you'd hate to miss out on the fact that you get to assist families on their greatest or one of their greatest financial transactions to get into their dream home or to refinance and save money, and also miss out on the opportunity of how great it is to do what you love and also to support your own family. And I would just invite you to slow down just enough to realize how remarkable things are. It doesn't mean you don't have challenges, we all have them. Well, my late mom, she was a genius. I only had her for 12 years, but she was a genius. She used to take us in her beat up light blue Monte Carlo. We were like hurting. My parents were divorced. My mom had 3 jobs. We all have our story, right? So my mom put us in that light blue Monte Carlo. We grew up in my hometown where I am now on the South Shore between Boston and Cape Cod. She put us in the Monte Carlo. She'd drive us into the projects in Boston. You get like arrested probably for doing that now, but she would do that. And what she was doing was altering our perspective. And she would talk to us about how blessed we are to have our house, and we have food in the fridge, and that we have our health, and we have each other. So she was a genius at that. Again, food in the fridge, roof over your head, your health, and someone to love. And on those trips in the car, she would talk to us about that. And then by the time we came back down to our beat up house, place is like a palace. We were psyched, right? And we were having our powdered milk or our, I remember the mashed potatoes we had, like you took it was from a box or whatever. That stuff was magic. We had just driven through these inner city projects and seen things that made us realize how lucky we had it. Again, your negative voice is probably rolling her or his eyes. But as your coach today, don't forget how good we have it. And the very act of realizing that alters your state. It's a Wayne Dyer quote, which is when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. So even though your external world hasn't changed at all, when you alter your perspective and you think in terms of it's Friday, summer's just about here, no masks, yes, but you're only going to get into that state if you allow yourself. And I talked about it when I was on with Todd and Dave, I don't know, a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, about this idea of the number one choice, the most important choice you make in your life is what I call your voice choice. I'm not going to launch into that again, but each day we have an opportunity. We're going to pick our positive voice, or we're going to pick our negative voice. And if we aren't active as far as choosing our positive voice, then more than likely by default, we choose our negative voice. And our negative voice loves to focus on what's wrong. Oh my gosh, we had 3 closings today, and we have meetings, and we forgot to lock the Smiths, and I have that call with them, and they're all fired up. Your negative voice is in that like everything's about what's wrong with your job, what's wrong with your spouse, what's wrong with your house, what's wrong with your own body, what's wrong. But your positive voice is psyched. Your positive voice is like, it's Friday. Yes, we made it. Again, just like I was just mentioning, we have no mass. You have 3 closings today. The Smith thing kind of got jacked up because of we forgot to lock them, but that's all good. Coachable moment for the LO. We'll have her in. We'll call them together, right? Your positive voice wants to focus on what's right. If you take nothing out of our hour together today, make that decision and put your gratitude hat on. And your negative voice can roll his eyes. But I can tell you one thing. If you don't feel remarkable, you're not at an energy level of 5 on a scale of 0 to 5, then more than likely it comes down to the voice choice. You may have thought it was about food or your exercise patterns. The reality is all our actions and our thoughts are a product of that voice choice decision. And that's what I spend 100% of my time on with my athletes and the executives I'm blessed to coach. I don't get into the specifics like you're going to eat this or you should exercise that. My view on everyone, including all of you watching this right now, is you're the resident genius on you. You know what your body needs. You already know how to eat correctly. Does that mean you know every detail? No, but who cares? You don't need to know every detail. You just need to know that probably more than likely you want to put whole foods in versus processed foods. We don't want to eat the full portions they give at restaurants when we get takeout. We should stay hydrated. We should get some sleep. We should limit our alcohol, right? You already know how to treat the machine, which is your body. It's really about getting the positive voice to the podium to then lead to the right decisions that empower how you treat the machine. Because I can tell you this, being an energy level of 5 is a blast. It doesn't mean you don't have challenges. I'm going to share a story today from last weekend that you'll be like, that just happened? Yes, it just happened. I'm going to share it. But when we're all in on our self-care and we realize that our number one business strategy, this is my belief, your number one business strategy is you and your vibe, your energy. Yes, you have to be able to sit down with the Smiths and and really intelligently and tactically shift the conversation from rates to value. You need to know what you're doing. All of that needs to happen. But the reality is your success, your ability to not only do what you want to do from a business standpoint and execute on your goals and what you want to do in Q2 and what you want to do for 2021, but more importantly, true success is how you show up for your family. Is feeling energized and on fire and giving them your A game. And what I've been blessed to do with a lot of people in the mortgage industry that I coach is your family shouldn't get stuck with your B game or your B plus or your B minus game while your clients and your teammates get your A game. And that's a balance thing. But again, it comes back to that positive voice, negative voice. And my belief is that when we were born as optimists. Now, again, your negative voice can roll his eyes on that, but I don't think any of us came out grumpy. Of course we're crying, we're getting used to the actual world. But if you look at a little baby, like a 6-month-old or a 12-month-old, they're happy. You look at even a little kid, right? They just want some blocks, they just want to vibe, they just want to mess around with their mom or dad or their siblings. They're happy. Pessimism and negativity are learned and they can be unlearned. And why I love right now, hanging out with you guys, why I love coaching people, whether it's one-on-one or leading teams, it comes down to just rewiring your thought patterns on, again, getting that positive voice to the podium and kicking the negative voice out, and then focusing on what's right. But also realizing that true happiness is about that balance. And you can have that. A lot of people think they're either trouncing it business-wise, and then they're doing okay with their family, or they're rocking it at home and then their business suffers. That's not true. The saying that you can have it all, I do not believe is true, by the way. So you can't play a round of golf and be gone from the house for 6 hours every Saturday and then be exactly who you want to be parenting wise, and then also trounce your numbers every year, and then also meet your friends at the bar on Wednesday nights to watch the game. I'm not saying that you have to be a robot, but you can't do everything. But what you can do is be a world-class family member, spouse, father, mother, be that person you want to be for the most important team, and trounce it business-wise. You can do both of those things and have fun in between, but the key is self-care. And if you're already trouncing it, I'm going to push you today to elevate. This is what I do with my athletes. Doesn't matter what level the athlete is. When I'm blessed to serve her or him, I know they can become better. We all can. And it comes down to the details. So if you're already cranking, resist the temptation to kind of be like, I'm not going to really pay attention, or you blow this off after a couple minutes. Don't do that. because you can always become better. Not necessarily to trounce the sales numbers, which will be a byproduct of your personal excellence, but so that you can gift your family your A game. And again, there's a process to that. So today we're going to talk about this theme. The topic I came up with was you don't want to get caught at a gunfight with a spoon. And really what I'm talking about is doing the preparation in advance of a situation so you don't get caught in a vulnerable state. This just happened to a lot of people with the health situation. I don't use the term. We all know what I'm talking about when I say the health situation. The reason I don't use the term is it's negative. Every time I hear the word, it makes me kind of cringe. So in March of 2020, I made the decision. I'm not going to use that term. I'm just going to call it the health situation. A lot of people got caught in the health situation where they hadn't done the work on their self-care to do what I call build the sword and armor in advance of the battle. So when things play out negative, but also opportunities come up that are positive, right? Where you need your A game, you can't hit the pause button. You're either ready to go or you're not. And what I would invite you to start realizing is we want to build the sword and armor during calm waters. For instance, at the end of this 18 to 24 month magical run in the mortgage industry, we want to build the sword and armor then. And then that way we can pounce on opportunities. We can also work our way through challenges that inevitably come up over time. So I'm going to share a story today that just happened last weekend. And there's really simple coaching strategies. Again, that's how I coach. 3 simple coaching strategies within this story. And those 3 strategies, the first one is this idea of building the sword and armor in advance of the battle. We want to do that for our families. We want to do it for our teams. We want to do it for our existing customers. We want to do it for our prospective customers. We want to do it for our real estate professional partners. We want to build that in advance. The second key coaching lesson in this story is this idea that we get to decide what things mean. And what I mean by that is a lot of people give away their power. So something goes south. I mentioned about the Smiths. We forgot to lock them. Our negative voice wants to play the world's ending game, the drama card. Don't do that. No one's dying. It's not that big a deal. Forgot to lock the Smiths. Let's just problem solve it. Let's get the junior LO in here. Instead of running her or him over, let's just use it as a coachable moment. Here, come in. We're going to call the Smiths. It's all good. This stuff happens. We just want to make sure going forward, this is how we treat our customers. We're going to talk them through this. And then you can be proud of how you led your junior LO, but you can also be proud of how you're working with the Smiths on their needs. The point of this coaching part is we get to decide what things mean. And if we're not careful, we end up in this perpetual state where everything's a big deal. And that becomes toxic for your team. It becomes toxic for your home team. We want to be our best selves. It doesn't mean 24/7. We all have days, right? But in general, you want to show up and be on. You want to be happy dad, happy mom, happy teammate. And that is earned. So that second thing is we always get to decide what something means and how to respond to it. Don't give away your power. And then the third thing is we want to build a world-class team. By the way, a world-class team can be one assistant. It doesn't need to be like I'm blessed. I have some CEOs of some major mortgage companies. I mentioned I have 4 of the top 30 originators. And then I also have people that have just started their own company. I just coached a rock star this morning who it's just him and one assistant. They're trouncing it. They're efficiency machines. So when I talk about building a world-class team, I'm not saying this big entity. I just mean a team that has each other's backs. No different than in sports. It's all fun and games when things are going well, but the second things go south, how's the team going to operate? Are you going to have each other's back? And it's no different in business than it is in sports, where if you've done the work in advance of the battle, then you're not holding a spoon wondering why all your teammates took off. You're just ready to support each other through the situation. And then also on the flip side, to pounce on opportunities. So those are the 3 super simple coaching things we're going to cover today. Again, build your sword and armor in advance of the battle. Number 2, don't give away your power. We all get to decide what something means to us. And then number 3, build a world-class team so you can rely on each other during stormy waters. So I'm going to share a story about Vermont property that my wife and I are blessed to own. I've talked about this, I think, in 2020 when I was on with Dave and Todd. So it's a property up in Vermont. It's a bunch of cabins. My amazing wife stayed in these cabins as a kid. There's a lot of history there. We were able to take over the property in 2014. It's 7 2-bedroom cabins, 4 acres, like 400 feet of private beach. It's ridiculous. When we took it over, it was all run down. So we spent 7 years really fixing the property and improving it and the cabins, and a ton of time and energy and focus and follow through, also a ton of capital. So it's been this huge process. Now, in that process, we have moved the property towards doing weddings. And so this year we have 7 weddings on the property. I don't run it. I'm blessed to have a team up there. They run the whole thing. And so the story that I want to share with you is from last weekend. So the prior weekend we'd had a wedding. It was like 60 people, went smoothly. Last weekend we had 150. And Saturday was my son's 12th birthday. So we had 6 of his buddies over. My house is nuts, right? There's air mattresses everywhere. It's like they're having a blast. And at 10 o'clock, I normally get a text from a wedding coordinator that the music's cut off. So long story short, 10:10, 10:20, 10:30, 10:45, she finally calls me after numerous texts and voicemails to her and lets me know that things are really not going well. I won't get into the details. One of the details is the best man was absolutely hammered and was swearing at our wedding coordinator about shutting the music off. Like, it was just an absolute train wreck. Now, I'm down in Massachusetts. I'm 4 hours away. It's my son's birthday. And so my negative voice is like, we're going to drive up there and get there at 2:30 in the morning. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. And so I decided not to do that for obvious reasons. So the next morning, again, long story short, my wedding coordinator calls and says they've completely trashed the cabins in the entire property. So she gets there in the morning and starts sending me text after text of pictures. And so again, back to this theme of not getting caught in a gunfight with a spoon. So I was already locked and loaded. I was already at an energy level of 5. Okay, I wasn't like hungover. I wasn't in this negative state or down on my sleep, even though the kids were up late. I was ready to go. I got up at 5:30 in the morning. I had done my morning routine. I was already locked and loaded to handle what was starting to play out. Again, we can't build the sword and armor in the middle of the battle. We either have it or we don't. And as your coach today, as your peak performance coach, let's elevate. Right now, it's pretty calm waters in the mortgage industry. And I'm an extreme optimist. Hopefully you've got that vibe already, right? But we also want to be realistic. Eventually, things turn and things change. We want to be in a state where we are locked and loaded, where our energy is on, where our vibe is on, and we can handle anything. And so as this played out on Sunday morning, in the pictures, and they're still in the cabins, they're supposed to leave at 10. We've got a bunch of families coming in for a family reunion at 3 p.m. And long story short, I text the bride, hey, Christy, you guys were supposed to be out at 10. I would appreciate it if you cleaned up and left the cabins as soon as possible. She doesn't text back. Now, the whole while, my negative voice wants me to call her and tee off on her and ream her out. And I'm like, I'm not touching any of that. Don't get lost in this conversation, by the way, because we all have these situations, and all of you as mortgage professionals, things go wrong sometimes. And the question is, you're going to immediately go to, I'm going to run, I'm going to get all fired up, or am I going to pull back a little bit and decide what really needs to happen to solve the situation? And so the bride didn't text back. Wedding coordinator sent me more pictures of they smoked in all the cabins, and there's cigarette butts smothered into this, and the screens are broken, and the furniture's broken, and the tent, and it's train wreck, right? Coming through on my phone. And meanwhile, Karen, my wife, says, are you gonna go up there? And I said, no. And I said, and the reason it's no is because it's Benjamin's birthday weekend, it's Father's Day. I've built a world-class team. I've treated them the way they deserve to be treated from day one. We're gonna lean on them right now, and they're already there. And so long story short, the bride ends up texting me a couple hours later, and she writes a couple complaints of things that were supposedly wrong with the property. She doesn't write anything about completely ruining our amazing property. She just writes that, all of which were things that her friends and family had broken. So of course, my negative voice again wants to get all fired up. I just text her back. This is what I wrote. Hi, Christy. Communication solves 99.9% of all problems. If you had reached out, my team would have fixed these right away. The reality is, I'm pretty sure your friends and family actually broke these couple things. And I just said, in 5 years of doing weddings, that was the worst experience we've ever had. The level of disrespect that you and your family and friends have shown to me and my family is appalling. I would like to do a call with you at 4 o'clock, you and your husband. So then I turned to Karen, and don't miss the coaching points in this, right? Which is, we want to build our sword and armor in advance of the battle. We always get to decide what things mean. So my negative voice was playing the world's ending game. Oh my gosh, the world's ending. You've spent so much time in capital in 7 years. You know what? None of the cabins burned down. They could have. They were all smoking in them. Nothing is truly broken to the point where it couldn't be repaired. This is not the end of the world. Or as my late friend Penny used to say, these are first world problems. And so I say to Karen, my wife, I say, I'm going to go for a 6-mile run, and then we'll go to the beach with the kids for Father's Day. She's like, okay. So I go on a rip a 6-mile run. I come back and I do 2 things. Meanwhile, when I get back, my phone's lit up because the bride has then listed all these complaints. She doesn't touch anything about all the negative things. She's just listing more complaints. And we've had all 5-star reviews for 5 years, if that tells you anything. So long story short, I read through our text, and I had already made some decisions on my run. And then I come over to my computer and I do one thing on my computer, and then I go to my text and I write Christy, the bride, this text. I write, hi, Christy. I do not think it's going to be productive for me and you and Jared to jump on a call today at 4 o'clock. I just refunded you your security deposit. I wish you the best of luck in your marriage. So my negative voice was whining and complaining. Oh my gosh, you just gave away $1,000. I'm very blessed. I work really hard, have for a long time. I'm not worried about that. You know what I'm worried about? My vibe, my energy, especially on my son's birthday weekend and especially on Father's Day. Even if it wasn't one of those 2 things, I'm not going to give away my power to these nutty, disrespectful people that just ruined or tried to ruin our property in Vermont. I'm not going to do it. It's not worth any amount of money. So I refunded her. Again, the coachable moment is, some of you are letting your negative voice dictate your response to situations. Doesn't mean you're going to nail it all the time, but we get to decide what something means. We get to decide how we're going to respond to it. Don't give away your power. And we give away our power, particularly when we're stressed. We've all been there, right? If you're like down in your sleep and you're stressed, you see it, you know, and I'll just mention real quickly, if you're a golfer and you watch the major tournaments, there's 4 major tournaments, right? The Masters, US Open, British Open, and the PGA Championship. They're like the 4 big tournaments. Now, when people get in high stress environments, high stress states, they ditch the things that have worked and they revert back to old habits that are not empowering and don't serve them. Which is why if you look at the stats, really for the last decade for those 4 major golf tournaments, you'll see that typically at the turn on Sunday, which just means there's 9 holes left in the tournament, there's typically 6 to 8 players in contention. And I'm blessed to coach a lot of golfers, college, professional. I understand what happens psychologically when you're in that state. The crowds are big. It's a huge responsibility. Now, what you'll see though is by the teeing off on the 16th hole where there's 3 holes left, there's usually only 2 or 3 guys left. So you've gone from 6 to 8 to 2 to 3. And what's happened is the gap form, because over those prior 5 holes, those 4 to 5 guys got so stressed that their swing that they've been working with their swing coach on for the last X years went out the window, and they just went back to what feels more comfortable. This is what people do from a response standpoint in a business setting. So even if you've refined your skills, you don't get fired up, then all of a sudden things get stressful and you're screaming at the junior LO because she forgot to lock the Smith. These are all things that were learned, and they can all be unlearned. So we want to control our state, our energy, and our vibe in advance of the battle. That's really what the story is about with the wedding in Vermont. So I sent that text. Now, the bride didn't even text back. But guess what I did? Went to the beach, right? Throwing the football with Ben, hanging out with little cutie Adeline, our 5-year-old. I didn't have a care in the world, not checking my phone. No, you should check your phone. All good. Team's up there. They're operating. They're fixing it. And I had an amazing Father's Day with my amazing wife and my 3 kids. but I had earned that well in advance of the wedding situation. And again, that third key coaching tip I want to make for you guys, or strategy for you guys today, is want to build a world-class team. And a lot of people get to the top by grinding. They grind. They're just going to keep, they're going to make more calls. They're going to work more hours. World-class people make a pivotal shift. Don't miss this, by the way. If you're a high-level performer and you're kind of like dabbling in and out of the messaging today, stay in the pocket, which is you've grinded your way to the top, but truly world-class people go through a pivotal transition at the top where they do not stay there. Here's the transition. They shift to superpowers only, or mostly superpowers. What are the three things that are truly world-class at? And then they learn to delegate. They build a team. They rely on them. They let them stumble through some things. Yes, Susie's not going to do it the exact same way that you did, but ultimately she's going to learn and she's going to do it just as good as you do, but it's going to take her a little time. We want to get to that. And again, we want to build a world-class team. Life is a team sport. It's not an individual sport. It's a team sport. We need a team. And so the reason I was blessed to have an amazing Father's Day with my beautiful wife and 3 kids is because I had earned that well in advance. You could even say I had earned it 2 weekends ago when I was up at our Vermont property and we had just had one of the cabins completely redone. I was staying in for the first night. It was beautiful. And then I went to brush my teeth and there was water running under the cabin. I was like, this isn't good. I go out there and something's wrong, a pipe bursts. So I call my team. It's Sunday evening, figure out a way to finally shut the water off. They say they'll come. I'm like, nope, I can shower in one of the other cabins. Don't worry about it. We want to treat our team as truly remarkable parts of what you're doing. Like, you really want to care about them like I do with my team, because then that's just a little pipe thing. A little different though when the property is completely damaged and we've got a family coming at 3 p.m. and it's Father's Day. And being able to rely on your team is compliments of how they've been treated well in advance of the battle. And so as your coach today, these 3 lessons are absolutely pivotal. Number 1 is this idea, right? Really 3 key things. First thing is build that sword and armor in advance of the battle, or don't get caught at a gunfight with a spoon. Number 2, we always get to choose how to respond to a situation. Do not give your power away. And then number 3, world-class teams. We want to build a world-class team. Now, the bride eventually did text back. All she wrote was thank you. It's all good. I had already moved on. And the term I used, not to her, which I said to Karen, I said it to myself, and I said it to my team in Vermont, is I'm out. I'm out. And what I mean by that is we get to decide if we're going to stay in a situation that is ridiculous. You know, a lot of people just stay. They just think like, I'm going to battle until I prove to them I'm right. At the expense of your happiness, at the expense of your 12-year-old's birthday weekend, at the expense of Father's Day. Don't do that. We want to change that pattern. It's much better to be happy than right all the time. It just doesn't work. Life's too short. And one of my mentors shared this quote with me, maybe it'll resonate, which is, if you give a fool a stage, she or he will perform. I know it's a brutal quote, but think about it. If you give a fool a stage, she or he will perform. And based on how the bride and groom had treated our property and handled the whole thing, I'm like, no stage, I'm out. So I'm out. So as your coach today, have you provided stages to people that you realize like that is, maybe it's not quite toxic, but it's not uplifting. It's not positive. It doesn't make you a better dad, spouse, leader, friend. Don't do that. Pull the stage back. Just say I'm out and decide to move on. Because for me, you go, oh no, you should have kept $1,000. I'm not going back and forth with some bride on whether this table they broke or this thing they broke is worth this or that. I'm not touching any of it. I'm out. And as your coach, the greatest gift you could maybe give yourself and your family is to decide some of this stuff that you're dealing with, it's time to say I'm out. And then to take that energy, take that vibe and put it back into your self-care. Put it back into your water, your sleep, your nutrients, your positive content, and really deciding that you get to be happy now. A lot of people chase happiness. I don't have all the answers on this, but I'm going to share something. We chase happiness like it's some destination, right? Oh man, when we get up to 30 families we're helping a month and I'm going to be making X, you almost act like the band's going to come out of the backyard. That's not going to happen. I don't mean that rudely, but it's not going to happen. It's not because of a number or you reach a certain income or whatever. You can be happy and have nothing, but that's a choice. And happiness is rarely bumped into. 99.9% of the time, it's earned through our habits. You can't just like sit in a chair and be like, wow, I'm going to be happy right now. It doesn't work that way. We've got to stay hydrated, get nutrients in our body, consume positive content, read, watch, listen to things that elevate us, that empower us. And then that causes this level of content that's true happiness now. So as your coach, don't wait for happiness to be earned. Decide that you want it now and earn it today through your actions, through your habits. Because when we build the sword and armor in advance, when we decide that we get to respond to something, we get to decide what it means and we get to decide how to respond to it. And then thirdly, when we build a world-class team, all of that is beautiful as that plays out. But here's another byproduct that some of you are maybe missing, is that when you do that, you feel really good about yourself. I don't mean ego. I mean self-worth. You want our self-worth to be at a certain level, because if it isn't, then we will not invest time, energy, focus, and follow through in ourselves. We won't value ourselves high enough to put ourselves on the priority list. So I'm blessed with the athletes I lead, the executives I lead. What they do as far as their teams is absolutely astonishing. But one thing I will say to you, for all of you, particularly you rock star moms, who I believe have the hardest job on the planet, also all of you high performers, right? Where it's like you're serving 10 families a month or 15, the number almost doesn't matter. I can tell you this, your output is incredibly high. I know this because I work really hard to be a world-class version of myself for my family, for my clients, everyone else I'm blessed to serve, including all of you today. You don't bump into it, you have to earn it. But it's also a huge output, because for you, and tell me if I'm wrong, I know I'm not hanging out with you guys right now, but I feel like that, which is if we're in a room together, right? If you're at like one of our wellness retreats in Vermont, I could see you guys nodding your head, which is, it gets exhausted to be on all the time. So again, if we were in the tent in Vermont, I'd say, raise your hand if that's your case, right? It's hard because people don't want the B game. They want the A game. Hey, you sit down with Smith, how you doing? Yeah, we're super excited. You're closed this week for Friday. We're on schedule. They want the A game. They don't want the B game. So to produce the A game for your family, for your clients, for your potential clients, for your real estate professional partners, for your potential real estate professional partners, we've got to realize that we need to recharge. We need to treat our bodies correctly. We can't be available 24/7. I'm not telling you to shut it down at 5 p.m. every night, because it's not reality as a mortgage professional. But we're going to realize we can't be on all the time, because what happens is you start like rotting from the inside out. And the way to see if that's happening is, one, look at yourself in the mirror. If you have like big bags under your eyes, and if that's hereditary, then it's all good. But if that's like, if you look at a picture from 5 years ago, you're like, it's not good. I'm having bags under my eyes. Then why do I look like this? That's a sign. The second thing, the other sign that you're not nailing your recharge, is you're a little edgy. Like someone sent you an email and it wasn't exactly like smooth communication. You want to like email them back. It's like, that's a sign that you're not recharging. And then a third way of seeing if you're kind of really off your game is that if you do a workout and you don't feel exponentially better post-workout, you're probably really run down. You maybe are not quite burnt out, but you're probably pretty run down. And as your peak performance coach, I want you to think about mastering your recharges. This is what world-class athletes do. This is what world-class executives do. They're not casual about how they recharge. They're super intentional about it, and they're purposeful about it. And it doesn't mean that, again, your phone's shut off from 5 p.m. on, but they use their evenings to recharge. So they get up on Friday morning and they're ready to get after it. Or for the athlete, they're ready. Oh, cool, we get the playoff game tonight. I'm good. I'm locked and loaded. They're prepared, but they don't bump into that preparation. They earn it. They earn it by being intentional and purposeful about their recharge at night, and then recharging on the weekend. So don't miss that coaching point. Most people scale of 0 to 5. 0, you're dragging, 5, you're on fire, energy-wise, right? You want to be a 5, or at least a 4.5. Most people end a day, tell me what you think of this, by the way, for you personally. They end the day, they're at like a 2, maybe at 3, it's like, it's been output all day. And then they have their evening, they do whatever they do, but they're not super intentional with the recharge. And then when they start the next morning, they're at like a 4, maybe a 3.5. And then not surprisingly, as the day, chips away at them and the output's high, that number keeps going down. And then you kind of crawl into Fridays, right? You're like, just want the weekend. And then you have to, I need to sleep in. I need to sleep in, you guys. I'm not saying that you can't sleep in, but let's make that the exception, not the norm. Now, if you pace yourself correctly during the week and you nail your recharge during the evenings, and then you're super intentional about that on the weekends, then you can start your days at a minimum of 4.5, if not a 5. And then you get up and you're fired up to get after it, and your family and friends can feel that. I just want to check the time, make sure we get it. So recharge, that wasn't our core topic today, but it's super important, which is we want to recharge our battery at night. We want to recharge our battery on the weekend. And that will position us to perform at the greatest level possible, which is ideally this peak performance state. Now I have another key coaching thing I want to cover here towards the end of our time today, but I want to give you an update on the wedding story. So Sunday night, I was hanging out with Karen. We were in the kitchen, and she was like, that was a crazy day. My wife's awesome. She's amazing. And we were just kind of talking through it. And I said to her, we're super blessed the way that played out. I said, yeah, the property was damaged, total mess, but it could have been so much worse. Don't miss this coaching tip, you guys. It could always be so much worse. And I said to Karen, I go, they were like smoking all the cabins, and they could have burned down one of the cabins. Like, people all hammered, they're smoking. Who knows what could happen? They could have burned down one of the cabins. They could have burned down the new cabin, because the new cabin is where the bride and groom stayed. And then Karen's like, she agreed. She's like, we got away with one here. This could have been an absolute disaster. Now, I'll just update you. And there's a coaching point within this. I'll share it at the end of the update on the story, which is on Monday morning, our wedding coordinator sent a text to the bride, which I was like, why am I on this text, right? Which I texted her on the side and said, Erica, please don't include me in any more texts to Christy. So long story short though, Erica, who's our wedding coordinator, also has a catering company. This is up Northeast Kingdom of Vermont. So she has her own team. So that team catered the same wedding. So Erica was being the wedding coordinator. Her team was running the catering. And so she texted Christy to say that they had broken all the champagne glasses. That gives you any sign of what's happening. I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because it's absolutely ridiculous. She writes to this whole text around, all these glasses are broken, we have to pay for them. She didn't write it like rudely, but she wrote it like, we gotta do. And here's what Christy, the bride, wrote back. And it's a coachable point in this, so don't start checking email, okay? Here's what she wrote back. I kid you not, this is a true story. We were able to find out and validate that this actually did happen. She writes, hi, hey Erica, I don't know, our house burned down last night. The house burned down. She literally sent pictures of her house that had burned down. And then she and Erica go back and forth. Oh my gosh, that's so devastating. And then she writes back, I know, we dumped an ashtray from some visitors into our trash can that was filled with cardboard wedding boxes we broke down. So cardboard ignited from a cigarette that was 4 hours old. We woke up to smoke in the house. The whole entire house is ruined. It burned down to the ground. You say, well, why would you share that? So my negative voice wanted to do the whole like karma, that's karma. You know what? If you're world class, you're too busy feeling energized. My immediate thoughts when I read that is, thank God they got out of the house. That's an absolute mess. The second thought, believe it or not, and you could say you're a fool, was how can I help them right now? Which again, you should be like, that's really bad. You shouldn't do that business-wise. I decided not to do that. I'd already given the $1,000 back. And then I just texted her back and I said, hi, Christy, I am so sorry to hear this devastating news. I will keep you and your family in my prayers. We want to take the high road. And it's just important as adults, right? We're not 20 anymore, but also our self-worth. Like last weekend could have been a train wreck, but it wasn't. My son had an amazing 12th birthday. I had an awesome Father's Day. It was a little bumpy out of the gate with all the texts and the pictures and everything, right? But I was good to go after we got through that. And my team stepped up. By Monday at noon, the entire property, everything was fixed and restored to its brilliance. Worked through some communication, with the family that was showing up, everything else. It's all good, first world problems. As your coach, let's just realize, if we get that voice choice right, then we focus on what's right. We focus on doing the right thing. We focus on how to support people. And I grew up outside of Boston, right? Not like in Boston, but like my mom was an awesome lady, but she's like, I don't mean this as a jab, but she's like edgy. Like that lady, she would like run you over. If you cross my mom, like I remember our dog, which was huge, used to like, he didn't eat our neighbor's cats, but he'd like try to eat our neighbor's cats, and our neighbors come over and my mom would be like yelling at him. It's like, that's not good. We need to realize that being in a way where everything's a big deal and everything's a confrontation, this is not a great way to travel. And we can break that. I call it breaking the cycle. Again, my mom was awesome, but I knew my grandmother's just like my mom, right? It's like, get him. But as your coach today, whether it's business stuff or something else going on, none of it's a big deal, right? No one's dying, and it could always be worse. That's really if we're going to summarize what I've been coaching you on so far, which is it can always be worse. And if our positive voice is the podium, our positive voice is guiding us in that thought pattern. Our positive voice is guiding us on, it's Friday, it's the summer weekend, no mask. How awesome is this? It's great, man. Everything's awesome. But if we're not careful, then all of a sudden it's Friday. We'll run down from the weekend. We just want to sit and have a couple beers or a glass of wine tonight, and I really want to sleep in tomorrow. And it's like, you at your core are world class. This was what the greatest gift, greatest lesson my beautiful late mom taught me, which is everyone on this planet is absolutely amazing. They're all rock stars. They're all positive. They're all on fire. They're just covered in these habits and layers that the world has kind of dumped onto them over time. So as your coach, all of that stuff is unlearnable. And I'm not saying you have to be Mr. or Mrs. Smiley 24/7, this awkward smile on your face, but let's shift towards positivity and optimism and hope. Because again, I believe your number one business strategy, not only for 2021, but beyond, I believe the rest of your life, is your energy, your vibe. There's a quote on Facebook. It says, your energy announces you to the room before you speak. So as your coach, what are you saying right now? Like if we watched a video of you walking in a conference room, which I know would be super creepy, but if we had it, right? Like you're about to meet with Smith, are you like, I'm not saying you should run in there because that's weird too, but do you have like a pace to you, right? We're in like the eye contact and you're not talking, having a rate discussion with the Smiths 4 minutes in. You're talking about their little cutie daughter's, soccer camp this summer. Like if we were watching you on video, would it be like, this is magic? Like, it's like he's hanging out with his neighbors and friends. And then eventually they're going to have some discussion around how he could be their mortgage professional. But this is like an incredible exchange. Well, it's an incredible exchange because of that professional's energy and vibe. And I don't mean turning it on. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of people that have the ability to turn it on, right? Some people call it like the it factor. Like, oh, Jim can just show up in the room and he's got that charismatic way. That's fine. But truly world-class people, they don't milk that. Excuse my candor here. They still elevate. Just because you're a gifted athlete and because you're the best in your team doesn't mean you've maximized your potential in the league. And as a business person, you want to realize it doesn't matter where you are on what I call the peak performance ladder. You can always get better. And I would invite you to have the courage to elevate. Have the courage to decide that you can be better. And that you can go to another whole level as far as how you lead your family, how you lead your team, how you're blessed to serve. Because when you get into that state, even if the cabins and the Vermont property, it's just not that big a deal. It's not a blast, but it's not that big a deal. And then you get to travel through life that way. And what happens, even though people could say, that's ridiculous, I'm telling you, fish jump in the boat. You end up with so many opportunities because of your energy, because of your vibe. you're actually getting calls from real estate professional partners, potential ones, existing ones. And it doesn't mean that you never have to make any outbound effort. Of course you do. But if you're giving off the right vibe, the right energy, you get the invite. You get asked to go to the ball game. I'm super blessed to be hanging out with you guys right now. When Todd texted me the other day, I was like, how cool is that? And part of me was like, what do you mean they're not going to be on? What about Dave's clap? Who's going to do the clap? I'm like, I can't do that clap, right? It's a huge honor that Todd and Dave would trust me enough to say, hey, and they didn't say, what are you going to cover? They go, we know you cover something powerful. Can you do the thing on Friday? Robert for the team's awesome. He'll coordinate it. Okay, cool. We'll do it. We want to get in a state where we are so on energy-wise. We are so excited that people can feel that. And what happens is they then are drawn into that, not in some creepy business way. It's because you just want to feel awesome. And when someone tells you they're going to Hawaii, you're like, that is amazing. And they're kind of thinking like, no, I didn't say you could come with me. I just telling you that we're going. And you go, oh my gosh, where are you staying? And you're like getting as excited as them. I'll just give an example how we're doing timing-wise. Benjamin, his buddy moved back from Chicago. They had lived here, they moved to Chicago. They moved back. And so on Sunday morning, his buddy wasn't feeling well. They were up too late. So I drove him home. And when I got to his house, his parents weren't like replying to texts. We were like, hey, he's not feeling good. He wants to drop him off. So I drive him home. And they bought a house right on the water. And I'm getting all these texts from my team, right? I don't even tell them that. I just say, oh, your house looks awesome. It's amazing. He goes, oh, you want a tour? And my neighbor voice like, no, Mr. Serious Wedding guys, gotta go. I'm like, nope, I'm good. I didn't say any of this, obviously. This is all going in my head. I go, yeah, I'd love to see your house. So walking around, walk upstairs. It's all glass overlooking the ocean. I didn't even know these people that well. I was like, this is ridiculous. And they're like, thanks. And I'm literally giving high fives. My neighbor was like, you don't know these people that well. Why are you giving them high fives? I don't know. The house is amazing. Can you imagine how hard they work to get that? That's how we want to show up. I am blessed to train and coach some of the best athletes in the world, some of the highest level executives. And the only reason I get invited onto their bus is my energy. I'd love to tell you, and then I have this unique thing. I don't. Super simple strategies. There are some unique things about the mindset of personal excellence and the voice choice and all of that. I'm not downplaying my skill set. But the reason I get invited in, the reason I get the calls, it happened actually when the health situation broke. I'd have a publicly traded company CEO call me and say, can we do a call at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning? I'm going to address the whole company at 8. I want to run by the messaging and I want you to give me the energy lift I need. How much of an honor is that? That's why I love it. That's why I love hanging out with you guys. That is achievable. By the way, I know I talk 100 miles an hour. I'm leaning into the camera. You're like, relax, buddy. You don't have to be 100 miles an hour. You don't have to be talking fast. Or like, everyone has their own version of their 5. Some people, it's super chilled. It's all good. But people can feel a 5. You can see it from like a mile away. And you want to show up as that. But it's earned in advance. We build the sword and armor in advance of the battle. We also build the sword and armor in advance of pouncing on the opportunity. When someone invites you to the big dinner or the presentation or the whatever, like, are you ready to go? And then secondly, I know I'm reiterating these, you guys, but secondly, we want to make sure that we don't give away our power. We always get to decide whether something's the end of the world or not. Don't listen to your negative voice because your negative voice thinks everything's the end of the world. And then thirdly, build a world-class team. People that have each other's backs. And do it when the sun's out. Do it when we're like, you're on the boat. It feels like, man, this is like chill. This is awesome. Look at me trouncing the numbers again. We want to build that real camaraderie, that real teamwork to, just want to make sure, there's a note from Robert there. Sorry, you guys. We want to build that teamwork in advance. And then that way, again, we can work through challenging situations. We can also pounce on opportunities. That's about a team. And then recharge. Want to recharge our battery. If your battery is depleted, right? We all know what that feels like. I mentioned 3 things. I said there's bags under your eyes. And the second thing is you're kind of like edgy on stuff that normally doesn't matter. And then the third thing is you're not really feeling that good after doing a workout, right? If you're depleted, be a realist and just own it. Don't go like send an email to your whole team like, I'm totally burnt out. I'm out of here, you guys. But maybe like tell someone that loves you and cares about you, like your spouse, like, honey, I'm really burnt out right now. I'm going to really take a break this weekend. Or, you know what? I'm going to take Monday off. Let's just have like a staycation, or let's go get an Airbnb, or do whatever you need to do to mentally elevate. Because a lot of times we think we need a week vacation. But if you take like 24 hours, ideally 48 hours, and really go in on your self-care, on your water, on your sleep, positive content, avoiding the news, avoiding texts or calls from toxic, negative people, right? Nail some workouts, limit your alcohol. And again, I'm not saying you have to like drink water and have salad and go to bed at 8, you guys, but you know what I mean? Like dial it in. Then really in like 48 hours, you won't feel like, man, I feel awesome again, but you'll feel rejuvenated. So don't get stuck on, well, we have the vacation in late July. I'm just going to have to plow through till then. Life's pretty short. We don't know how long we have. And I don't mean that like we're going to keel over tonight, you guys, but we're not here for 200 years. We only have this defined amount of time now. So don't bench your happiness until we go to the lake in late July. That's when I'm going to recharge. Don't do that. You can start recharging right away by taking some of your time and allocating it to your self-care. And again, that's about recharging. I just had this conversation this morning with a rock star from the mortgage industry, which is this idea of we want to be, again, super intentional about the recharge. We already covered that today. But then I was talking with her about how all the books on my bookshelf on the top level are all the biographies of some of the greatest people in business. So Howard Schultz, Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, James Dyson, you know, the list goes on and on. Nike, like the biographies of all the leaders of, you know, Phil Knight from Nike. Besides Elon Musk and Steve Jobs, who are work, the rest of them are masters at recharge. You can find it in all their biographies, by the way. It doesn't mean they're like working 30 hours a week, but they're super intentional about how they recharge their body, in their mind, in their spirit. So we want to do that. Rockefeller was a monopolist, so I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, Titan, his biography, that's the best thing ever. But Rockefeller would spend 2 to 3 hours in his garden every afternoon, when obviously he could have been doing other things. Almost every one of those biographies explains how this world-class leader is intentional about the recharge and is intentional about how they nurture their being. And when you do that, you have this sense where you get back to loving what you do. The reason you became a mortgage professional is you love it. You love, as I talked about at the beginning of the call today, you guys, you love this idea of supporting people in the biggest or one of the biggest financial transactions in their lives. There's a lot of complexities in that. It's a lot of scary things, a lot of baggage we all bring to the table around things that have maybe happened in the past. Maybe when you were a kid, something happened with your home, or they need a true professional that has their back, that can partner with them. And you want to get back to that. That's why you're in this industry. It's an amazing industry. You have a blast helping these families, and you can make a killing on the side. So how fun is that, right? Like you love it, and you're trouncing it financially. Sounds pretty good. I know there's a lot of stress, by the way. I'm not trying to be like, it's all great, you guys. I know there's a lot of complexities. There's a lot of challenges in the mortgage industry, but there's so much beauty if you allow yourself to focus on it and you get back to your best self. Because you could have 20 pounds on you, you could have 40 pounds on you, you could have 80 pounds on your body right now. I know for a fact you're an absolute rock star. I know you are the most positive person in the room or the most positive person in the Zoom call. You just haven't revealed her or him yet, because your habits that are a product of your thinking, which is a product of your voice choice, are hindering your greatness. But once we get the voice choice right, we get our thoughts right, we get our habits right, we then start dropping the weight, we start dropping the edginess, we start dropping the world's ending game, and we get to that brilliant version of ourselves. And life is so much easier when you're her or him. It doesn't mean life is easy, but life is drastically easier when you're at an energy level of 5 and you feel remarkable. And that is what all of you deserve. Again, we're not here for 200 years. I don't mean that to be a downer as we finish up here in a couple minutes, but we're not. So this weekend, let's step out. Remember at the beginning of the call, I was talking about like, let's step out and look in and realize what's right and realize what we have to be thankful for. And when we do that, everything changes. right? I'll say it again, the Wayne Dyer quote, when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. And when you see someone that's in a state of positivity and energy and optimism and hope, then you can like feel it. And that's a gift to give to your spouse and kids, particularly as you hang out for a whole weekend. Focus on what's right. My late beautiful mom used to say, if you have food in the fridge, you have a roof over your head, and you have someone to love, and you have your health, you're absolutely trouncing it. And when you realize that, that gives this lift, this optimism, this hope, and it draws people in. And you can get back to the brilliance of why you became a mortgage professional in the first place. It's a beautiful industry. Do not get burnt out. And then I'll mention, how am I doing timing wise? Dave's like a professional, by the way. He's like, go in the comments and put a question or whatever. And I'm like, running you guys over. But I'll just say as we finish up, again, coaching lessons from today: master your recharge in the evening and on the weekends. Build your sword and armor in advance of the battle. Never give away your power as far as how you respond to a situation. And we always get to decide what something means. And then thirdly, build a world-class team. And then I mentioned a couple calls ago, which is, don't ever forget how important what you do is. The reason that I am the happiest guy in the world, every time the mailman comes, the mailwoman, her name's Regina, who, talk about Boston accent, she smokes cigars and uses a lot of F words, and I don't mean the fun word, but she drives that mail truck like she'd get paid if she blows it up, and I can hear it. And I'll say to Karen, like, hey, did the mail come? She goes, oh yeah, Regina came. And I'll walk down, I'll get my mail. When I walk up, and I've shared this story before, I walk up that driveway to my dream home here overlooking the lighthouse where my parents' ashes are in Massachusetts. This is a blessing where we live. And when I walk up that driveway, I cannot stop smiling looking at my home. And the reason being is 2.7 miles away from the bottom of my driveway is the home that I grew up in that was foreclosed as a kid. You are not selling a house, you are selling a home. It is the most powerful thing on the planet. Don't ever forget what you're doing for these families. Thank you for spending time with me today. If I can help you out in any way, reach out to me through LinkedIn or Facebook, or you can go to peaklockin.com to learn about coaching, learn about our retreats, or to get in contact with me. All right, have an awesome day. Wear that attitude of gratitude hat, and I look forward to connecting with you guys soon.